My name is Brian, and I'm 31 years old. I work as a civil engineer in Portland, Oregon, managing infrastructure projects for a mid-size firm. Last Tuesday, I got a text from an unknown number. I almost deleted it without reading, thinking it was spam, but something made me open it. The message started with "Hi Brian," and my stomach dropped before I even finished the first sentence. It was Lauren, my ex-girlfriend from 3 years ago. Attached to her message was a wedding invitation. She was marrying Chris, my former best friend. I sat there staring at my phone for a solid 5 minutes, trying to process what I was reading. The audacity of it was almost impressive. 3 years had passed since I walked in on them, and now they wanted me at their wedding. The invitation was formal, printed on expensive cardstock in the photo she sent, but her message tried to sound casual and friendly. She wrote about how it had been a long time, how they were getting married next month, and how they would really love for me to be there. She said they had all grown so much, and it would mean a lot to celebrate this new chapter together. She ended with "Hope you're well," like we were old college buddies who had just drifted apart. I need to back up and explain how we got here, because the whole situation is insane when you know the full story. 3 years ago, my life looked completely different. Chris and I had been best friends for a decade. We met in college and stayed close after graduation. The kind of friendship where you don't need to talk every day, but you know the other person has your back no matter what. We had been through everything together. When my dad died during my senior year, Chris was the one who drove me home and sat with me through the funeral. When he got laid off from his first job out of college, I let him crash on my couch for 2 months until he got back on his feet. We had that kind of bond where you just assume the person will be in your life forever. I had even joked with him that he would be my best man someday when I got married. Lauren and I had been dating for about 18 months when everything fell apart. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue and hit it off immediately. She was smart, funny, ambitious. She worked in real estate and was doing well for herself. We had started talking seriously about our future, about maybe moving in together and seeing where things went. I thought we were building something real. She got along great with Chris, which I loved because it meant my girlfriend and my best friend could hang out without it being awkward. The three of us would grab dinner together, watch games at sports bars, do normal friend group stuff. I thought I had it all figured out. Then came the day that changed everything. It was a regular Thursday afternoon. I had gone to the gym after work like I usually did. Chris owned a gym across town, and I would sometimes work out there to support his business. But that day, I went to the one closer to my apartment. After my workout, I realized I hadn't seen Chris in a few days and figured I would swing by his place to say hello. We had talked about watching a game that weekend, and I wanted to confirm the plans. His apartment was only about 15 minutes from the gym, so I drove over without calling first. We had that kind of friendship where you could just show up. I used the spare key he had given me months earlier and let myself in. The TV was on in the living room, and I could hear sounds coming from that direction, so I walked toward it calling out his name. What I saw when I rounded the corner into his living room is burned into my memory forever. Chris and Lauren were on his couch, completely naked, having sex. They were so into it that they didn't notice me at first. I just stood there frozen, my brain trying to process what my eyes were seeing. It felt like I was watching a scene from someone else's life, like this couldn't possibly be happening to me. Then Lauren saw me. Her face went from pleasure to absolute panic in a split second. She scrambled to cover herself, and Chris turned around, his eyes going wide when he realized I was standing there. The look on his face was guilt mixed with fear. He started to get up, reaching for his clothes, and said, "Man, let me explain," but I didn't let him finish. I didn't say a single word. I just turned around and walked out of that apartment. I heard them both calling my name as I left, but I kept walking. I got in my car, drove home, and sat in my living room in complete silence for about an hour. The betrayal hit me in waves. It wasn't just that my girlfriend had cheated on me. It was that my best friend, the person I trusted more than almost anyone, had been sleeping with her behind my back. I didn't know how long it had been going on. I didn't know if this was the first time or the 100th time. I didn't know if they had feelings for each other or if it was just physical. And the thing is, I didn't want to know. I didn't want explanations or apologies or any of it. I just wanted them both out of my life. That night, I blocked both their numbers. I unfriended and blocked them on every social media platform I could think of. I deleted photos, old text threads, everything. Lauren tried to come to my apartment the next day, but I didn't answer the door. Chris showed up the day after that, and I told him through the door that if he didn't leave, I would call the police. Some mutual friends tried to reach out, saying that Chris and Lauren wanted to talk to me, that they wanted to explain and apologize. I told those friends that I wasn't interested in mediating or hearing anyone out. I had seen everything I needed to see. The next few months were brutal. I had to completely rebuild my social life because so many of our mutual friends were caught in the middle. Some of them chose sides, some tried to stay neutral, and I ended up distancing myself from most of them because I didn't want to hear updates about Chris and Lauren. I moved to a different neighborhood across town, so I wouldn't risk running into them at the grocery store or coffee shop. I threw myself into work and started seeing a therapist to deal with a double betrayal. My therapist helped me understand that what I was feeling was grief, not just for the relationship with Lauren, but for the friendship with Chris. I had lost two of the most important people in my life in the span of about 10 seconds. It took me a solid 6 months before I started feeling like myself again. Therapy helped. Focusing on work helped. I got promoted about 8 months after everything happened, which gave me a sense of purpose and accomplishment. I started slowly building a new social circle, making friends through work and hobbies. I went on a few dates here and there, but nothing serious for a while. I needed time to trust people again. The betrayal had messed with my head more than I wanted to admit. But gradually, I healed. I stopped thinking about Lauren and Chris every day, then every week, then barely at all. About a year ago, I met Natalie on Facebook through a friend. She's a veterinarian, 29 years old, with this calm, grounded energy that I found incredibly attractive. We started as friends, going on group dates. Eventually, we started going on dates, just the two of us, and it developed into something more. We have been officially dating for about 8 months now, and it's the healthiest relationship I have ever been in. She knows the whole story about Lauren and Chris. I told her early on because I didn't want there to be any secrets between us. Her reaction was perfect. She didn't pity me or treat me like I was damaged. She just said they sounded like selfish people, and she was glad I had the self-respect to walk away. So when I got that text from Lauren last Tuesday, I was in a completely different place in my life than I was 3 years ago. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't hurt. I was just indifferent. I had built a new life that didn't include either of them, and I was genuinely happy. Reading her message felt like hearing from a stranger. I didn't feel the urge to yell or confront or demand answers. I just felt nothing. I decided to keep my response simple and polite. I texted back, "Congratulations to you both. I'll pass on the wedding, but I wish you well." I meant it. I did wish them well in the sense that I hoped they would leave me alone and live their lives far away from mine. I thought that would be the end of it. A polite decline, no drama, everyone moves on. 2 days later, Lauren texted again. This message was longer, and I could feel the manipulation in every sentence. She said she understood if it was still hard for me, but she hoped I could be happy for them. She went on about how they didn't plan for this to happen, but sometimes life takes you in unexpected directions. She said they had built something real, and my absence would feel like I was still holding onto the past. Then she hit me with the kicker. She said she just wanted me to know they had moved on, and she hoped I had too. The implication was crystal clear. If I didn't come to the wedding, it meant I hadn't moved on. It meant I was still bitter and stuck in the past while they had grown and matured. She was reframing my very reasonable boundary as some kind of emotional problem on my end. I read that message 3 times, feeling my blood pressure rise with each read. But I didn't respond. I figured silence was the best answer. Let her think whatever she wanted to think. I knew the truth about where I was in my life. But Lauren wasn't done. A few days before the wedding, she sent another text. This one dropped any pretense of being nice. She said she had been thinking about my response, and it felt like I was punishing them by not coming. She acknowledged they had made mistakes, but pointed out that it was 3 years ago. She said that at some point I had to let go of anger and choose happiness. Then she said she was worried that I was stuck and asked why I couldn't move forward like everyone else had. That message pissed me off. Not because it hurt my feelings, but because of the sheer audacity of it. She was trying to make me feel bad for having boundaries. She was trying to paint me as the problem because I didn't want to celebrate the relationship that started with both of them lying to my face and betraying my trust. The fact that she thought I owed them anything after what they did was mind-blowing. Here's the thing she didn't know. I had moved on. Completely. I had been promoted twice at my firm and was now leading major infrastructure projects. I had bought the house I told her I wanted to buy. I had friends who actually respected me. And most importantly, I had Natalie. We were actually on a trip together when I got that last text from Lauren. We had driven out to Cannon Beach on the Oregon coast and were staying at this beautiful little inn overlooking the ocean. We had been planning this trip for weeks, and it just happened to fall on the same weekend as the wedding. Pure coincidence, but it felt like the universe was on my side. The morning I got Lauren's final text, Natalie and I were having coffee on the balcony of our room. The sun was rising over the ocean, and everything felt peaceful and right. I showed Natalie the message, and she just shook her head. She said Lauren and Chris sounded delusional if they thought I owed them anything, let alone my presence at their wedding. Then she said something that stuck with me. She said that some people need your pain to justify their choices, and when you take that pain away, they don't know how to handle it. That's when I decided to respond, but not with words. I asked Natalie if she would be okay with me sending Lauren a photo of us. I explained that I wanted to show Lauren that I had actually moved on, that her little guilt trip wasn't going to work because I was genuinely happy. Natalie thought about it for a second and then smiled. She said if it would get Lauren to leave me alone, she was all for it. We took a photo right there on the balcony. The sunrise was behind us, lighting up the ocean in shades of orange and pink. Natalie kissed my cheek and I smiled, a real genuine smile, because I was happy. The photo captured exactly what I wanted it to. It wasn't staged or performative. It was just two people who were content and in love, enjoying a beautiful moment together. I sent the photo to Lauren with a short message. I wrote, "You said I needed to move on. I did 3 years ago. This is what that looks like. I'm not coming to your wedding because I don't need to. I'm not angry. I'm just busy being happy. Don't contact me again." Then I blocked her number. I turned off my phone after that and spent the rest of the day with Natalie walking on the beach and having lunch at a little seafood place we found. I didn't think about Lauren or Chris or the wedding. I was exactly where I wanted to be. I had no idea what that photo had set off. I didn't know until later that evening when I finally turned my phone back on. I had a bunch of missed calls and texts from people I hadn't heard from in years. Mutual friends, Lauren's maid of honor, even a couple of people from the old friend group that I had distanced myself from. All of them were asking the same thing. What did you send to Lauren? What happened? Is everything okay? I didn't respond to most of them. I wasn't interested in getting dragged into drama. But one of the messages was from a guy named Brandon who I used to be friendly with. He had stayed neutral during the whole breakup, and we had lost touch, but he seemed genuinely concerned. He said Lauren had some kind of breakdown after seeing my photo, and people were worried. I texted him back asking what he meant by breakdown, and he called me right away. Brandon told me that Lauren had been in the middle of last-minute wedding preparations when my message came through. She was wrapping up final details with the event manager, surrounded by her bridesmaids while getting her hair and nails done. Everything had been running smoothly up until that point. Then she made the mistake of checking her phone and saw the photo. According to Brandon, who got the story from one of the bridesmaids, Lauren just froze. She stared at the screen for what felt like forever without moving or saying a word. Then the tears started. Not the delicate, dabbing at the corners, kind of crying. Full, body-shaking sobs that came out of nowhere. Her bridesmaids rushed over, thinking it was normal pre-wedding jitters. Brides get overwhelmed on their big day. It happens all the time. But as they tried to comfort her, Lauren kept repeating the same phrase over and over like she was stuck in a loop. He's with someone else. He's actually with someone else. That's when everyone realized this wasn't about wedding day nerves. This was something else entirely. Lauren suddenly stood up and locked herself in the bathroom. Her bridesmaids knocked on the door, asking if she was okay, trying to coax her out. She stayed in there for nearly 20 minutes, while everyone outside grew more worried and confused. When she finally emerged, she looked completely different from the excited bride she had been just minutes before. Her face was pale. She kept reaching for her phone, asking where it was, saying she needed to see it again. Her maid of honor had already taken it away and hidden it, thinking Lauren needed to stop looking at whatever had upset her and focus on getting ready for the ceremony. Brandon said the entire atmosphere in the bridal suite changed in an instant. What had been excitement and laughter turned into uncomfortable tension. The bridesmaids were whispering to each other, exchanging worried glances, trying to figure out what could have possibly triggered such a dramatic reaction. Lauren wasn't responding to anyone's questions. She just sat back down in the spa chair and stared straight ahead at nothing, like she was somewhere else entirely. I didn't know what to say when Brandon told me all this. I hadn't sent the photo to hurt Lauren. I sent it to make her stop contacting me, to show her that her manipulation wasn't going to work because I had actually moved on. But apparently, it had done a lot more than that. Brandon said he would keep me updated if he heard anything else, and we hung up. I told Natalie what I had just learned, and she looked as surprised as I felt. Neither of us had expected that kind of reaction. What I found out later, through bits and pieces from different people, was that the photo had completely shattered something inside Lauren. For 3 years, she had been telling herself a story. In that story, I was heartbroken and alone, unable to move on from what she and Chris had done. That story made her feel better about her choices. It justified the affair. If I was still suffering, it meant what they had done mattered, that their relationship was worth the damage it caused. But my photo destroyed that story. It showed her that I wasn't suffering. I had moved on. I had found someone else. I was happy, maybe happier than I had ever been with her. And that realization broke her. Lauren's maid of honor, Jessica, apparently tried to calm her down. She told Lauren it was just nerves, that every bride feels overwhelmed before the wedding. But Lauren wasn't listening. She kept saying she had made a mistake, a huge mistake. Jessica asked what she was talking about, reminding her that she loved Chris. But Lauren's response was something that would end up changing everything. She asked if she really loved Chris, or if she had just fallen into the relationship because she couldn't undo what she had done to me. That question opened a floodgate. Lauren started spiraling, talking about how I had been good to her, how I was stable and honest, and planning a future with her. She asked out loud why she had thrown that away, what she had been thinking. Jessica tried to redirect her, telling her she needed to finish getting ready because Chris was waiting. But Lauren just kept saying she couldn't do it. She couldn't go through with the wedding. The next day, Lauren asked to see Chris. They met in a side room away from everyone else. I wasn't there for this conversation, obviously, but I heard about it later from multiple people who got different versions of the story. Chris asked her what was going on, saying that Jessica had told him Lauren was freaking out. Lauren showed him the photo I had sent. Chris's face apparently went hard when he saw it. He asked why I was sending her photos, if I was trying to mess with her on her wedding day. Lauren told him no, that she had kept texting me asking me to come to the wedding, and I was just showing her that I had moved on. Chris said, okay, so I moved on, so what? He pointed out that they had moved on too, and they were about to get married. But Lauren went quiet and asked him a question that must have hit him like a truck. She asked if they had really moved on, or if they had just stayed together because they couldn't face what they had done. Chris asked her what the hell she was saying. Lauren told him she didn't know if she loved him or if she had just been unable to admit she made a mistake. Chris was stunned. He asked if she was really telling him this now, after all the planning and preparation, with their families and friends waiting. Lauren started crying and said she was sorry, that she thought she was sure, but seeing me happy made her realize she had been lying to herself. Chris asked if this was really about me, if after 3 years she was still hung up on me. Lauren said she wasn't hung up on me. She said she was realizing she had never dealt with what she did, never faced the fact that she threw away something good. She asked him what they even were. Chris said they were supposed to be getting married. Lauren said she couldn't. She was sorry, but she couldn't do it. She took off her engagement ring and just sat there. Chris was furious and humiliated. He left the room and had to tell both their families that the wedding was off. I can't even imagine how that conversation went. All the money spent, all the guests who had traveled, all the plans made, and it was over because of a photo I sent from a beach in Oregon. Later that night, Lauren's mother called her trying to understand what had happened. Lauren apparently broke down and told her the truth. She said she had never really loved Chris. She said she had been trying to make the guilt go away, that she had ruined everything with me and had been running from it ever since. She admitted that the wedding was supposed to prove that the affair had been worth it, that they were meant to be together. But seeing me happy and moved on made her realize it was all a lie. I didn't find out about any of this immediately. I came back from my beach trip with Natalie on Sunday evening, completely unaware that I had accidentally blown up a wedding. On Monday morning, I got a call from another mutual friend, a guy named Tom, who I hadn't spoken to in over a year. He said he was calling to get my perspective on what happened, but he ended up being the one who told me the wedding had been called off. He said Lauren had realized she was marrying Chris to avoid dealing with what she had done to me, and she had told people she never really loved him. I sat there on the phone with Tom, completely stunned. I hadn't intended for any of this to happen. I just wanted Lauren to stop texting me. I wanted her to understand that I had moved on and she needed to respect my boundaries. I never thought a single photo would cause her to cancel her entire wedding. Tom asked if I had known this would happen, and I told him honestly that I had no idea. He said a lot of people were talking about it, that the whole situation was messy and uncomfortable. I told him I wasn't trying to cause drama. I was just living my life. He seemed to believe me, and we ended the call. Over the next few weeks, I heard more details through the grapevine. Lauren had been trying to reach out to me multiple times through different channels. Several mutual friends told me she had contacted them asking them to pass along messages to me. I didn't engage with any of it. My sister also called to tell me that Lauren had been calling her, begging her to get me to talk to her. My sister said Lauren sounded desperate and kept saying she needed to speak with me. I told my sister to ignore her calls and that I had no interest in any communication with Lauren. Then one day, the receptionist at my engineering firm called my office line and told me a woman named Lauren had stopped by asking to see me. The receptionist said she had left a note for me. I went down to pick it up, and when I read it, Lauren had written that she needed to talk to me, that she had made a terrible mistake, and she was asking me to give her a chance to explain. I read the note once and threw it away. The fact that she had shown up at my workplace felt like another boundary violation, and it only reinforced my decision to keep her out of my life. I didn't respond to any of it. Not the messages through mutual friends, not the calls to my sister, not the notes she left at my office. I had blocked her on everything 3 years ago, and I wasn't interested in reopening this chapter of my life. I had moved on completely and saw no reason to go backwards. One of the mutual friends called me a few days later and asked if I wanted to know what Lauren was saying about the situation. He said she had been talking to people and he thought I should be aware of what was being said. I told him no. I didn't want to know. Whatever Lauren was dealing with wasn't my problem anymore. I had spent 3 years building a life without her and Chris, go to therapy, advancing my career, and finding a healthy relationship. I wasn't about to let them back in just because Lauren was having regrets about the choices she made. I also started hearing things about Chris through the same network of mutual friends. Apparently, he was a mess after the wedding got canceled. He felt betrayed all over again, but this time by Lauren instead of me. People told me he had been saying that Lauren had never been over me, that he had been a rebound that just lasted 3 years. He was angry and humiliated about the whole situation. The wedding had been called off just days before it was supposed to happen, and he had to deal with canceling everything and explaining to everyone what went wrong. From what I heard, Chris and Lauren weren't speaking at all after the canceled wedding. Whatever relationship they had was completely over. Their relationship, which had started with them betraying me, had ended with them betraying each other in a different way. Lauren betrayed Chris by calling off the wedding after realizing she didn't truly love him. Chris felt betrayed because he had spent 3 years with someone who was never fully committed to him. The whole thing had fallen apart, and they were both dealing with the consequences of building something on a foundation of lies and betrayal. I've had a lot of time to think about all of this. I didn't send that photo to ruin Lauren's wedding. I sent it to show her I had moved on, to get her to stop contacting me and trying to manipulate me into feeling guilty for not attending. I had no idea it would trigger such a massive breakdown. But honestly, that's not on me. Lauren spent 3 years lying to herself, building a narrative where the affair was justified, and I was just collateral damage who would eventually get over it. One photo made her face the truth, and she couldn't handle it. She didn't call off the wedding because she wanted me back. I don't think that's what this was about. She called it off because she realized the affair wasn't worth what she gave up. She realized she had thrown away a stable, honest relationship for something that was built on lies and betrayal. And when she saw that I had moved on and found happiness without her, it destroyed the story she had been telling herself to make her choices feel okay. Some people need your pain to justify their choices. When you take that pain away, they have to face reality, and reality can be harsh. I'm not celebrating Lauren's misery or the fact that her wedding got canceled. I'm not that petty, but I'm also not going to feel guilty about it. I set a boundary. I showed her I had moved on. What she did with that information was her choice, not mine. The best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's building something better and not looking back. I have a great job, a house I love, friends who respect me, and a girlfriend who makes me genuinely happy. I don't think about Lauren or Chris anymore unless someone brings them up. They're not part of my life, and they haven't been for 3 years. That photo was just a reminder of that fact. Lauren texted me one more time about a month ago. I didn't read it. Natalie and I were too busy picking out furniture for the house and planning a trip to visit her family. Some chapters need to stay closed, and that chapter of my life is sealed shut. I'm not opening again